bottom left-hand corner of 2,000 atmospheres for our winners Group E losers final for Team GP. This is RYUNG.
And in the top right, from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, of course, is going to be Zest.
Let me just kind of think about this one here for just a hot moment. And here's the thing, like, RYUNG didn't see that. The grass did its job. There's a proxy Stargate in the center of the map.
What? Okay. Here's the thing, though. RYUNG should scout this out. He should see that there's no second pylon. You actually see him checking the corner of the base for that. So RYUNG does know that something is up. This Reaper should be used to scout, and it's actually going to scout through the middle of the map. So there we go. RYUNG just noticing the small details. And this is another good note for a lot of Terran players. If you don't know, the Protoss is not going to have a second, or it has their second pylon by the time your SCV goes across the map and reaches their base if you scout after barracks. So you scout after your barracks finishes. If there's no second pylon in the base, then most likely it is proxied somewhere on the map. And you see that RYUNG realizes that and immediately uses his Reaper to scout around his base and does find that Stargate. Now, the real question is, how are you going to defend? Because this factory, well, it's not going to be up for a while. This was, I think, actually a much slower factory than Bunny's, if I'm not wrong, or it's just a closer proxy from Zest. But you're not going to have that Widow Mine out as quickly as you'd like. The Marines, there's only 3 of them, which means the Oracle can fight this straight up. Mind you, there was no reactor on this barracks, so that means that it's going to be a little bit dicey here for RYUNG on this hold. You're going to see 2 SCVs immediately go down, and the Marines can actually get sniped as well. But the Widow Mine, Zest being careful. He has learned his lesson.
Yeah, you can't commit the same mistake over and over again and expect to qualify into one of the greatest tournaments in StarCraft 2 history. So doing a little bit better here, getting 5 kills overall. A couple of those were military units, actually just 1 Marine. So getting 4 worker kills, that's actually much better than he did in his first series. Now going to reunite with a second Oracle, a third one on the production tab as well. And I think that's going to be where it ends for the Sky Toss, at least for right now. Zest is going to throw down the Twilight Council back behind. And he already has his second Nexus on the way as well. So in a much better spot here, it's got to be just feeling overwhelmingly more confident.
Yeah, and I really should have been keeping track of the builder of the Terran. Like, well, why are these Oracles out so fast? Well, that's because it was, okay, base the Widow Mine. Oh my god, Zest! That is gorgeous. Does lose the second Oracle to another Widow Mine, but look at all these SCVs that are so weak. The medevac is going to have to try and heal them up. Even gets the Widow Mine. That's 10 SCVs that have gone down. That could have been so much worse had RYUNG not had the second Widow Mine there. But as you saw, this was a big investment here from Zest. This was Stargate before the Nexus. That's why these Oracles were so quick. It's 3 of them. And I think RYUNG is very happy that 2 of them have gone down. Still losing 10 SCVs this early in the game is not ideal. And now the Oracle can just dive on in to try and find more. Gets an 11th and is just going to back on out. But RYUNG is actually not even going to have the worker lead because of that. Yeah, he had the earlier CC, but it doesn't matter. You just lost 10 or 11 SCVs. And so, yeah, Zest, he's pretty happy. It was like, I was trying to find like a good point there for the Terran. Like, oh, well, you killed the Oracles and, you know, you had the CC earlier. But no, this was just pretty much an overwhelming success for Zest on this opening.
Yeah, much better start here for the Protoss player. I loved the use of that mine. He knew that mine was going to be there, and he knew that he had additional units that could get lethal damage taken care of, but allowing RYUNG to assist in his endeavor to clean up that mineral line, just dragging that mine and taking advantage of that friendly fire puts him in a much better position here. I mean, 39 to 32 workers at the 545 mark is a pretty sizable lead for the Protoss player as long as he can maintain it, but he does need to be able to hold on to the counter push here. Stimpak's going to be finishing up in just a minute, or not even just a minute, just a few seconds, and And he does have a response here. Zest does have Blink Stalkers on the move once again. How many Marines are here? 20. So that is a sizable amount. That is going to be more than enough here. Oh my gosh, yeah. Zest looking for these. Oh, what a beautiful blink out of the way, making the most of the situation here. Oh my, Zest is just going to charge on in here. No pun intended. Charge is started. But this is a very, very aggressive play here, especially knowing that there isn't a tank in sight just yet.
Yeah, Zest. Some nice blinks here. Just try and pick up a few units. Make sure not to lose any of the actual hit points on these stalkers. Just the shields end up going down, and this has been a perfectly maneuvered early game so far from Zest. This is more what we're used to seeing from him. Even as the stim comes through, a few of those stalkers get into the yellow, but they're just going to be able to walk their way on out. And that early stim pack for RYUNG, it's really not going to do that much because his third barracks was so delayed. He's not going to have combat shields, and now suddenly the timing attack that he's going for, he's going to look more like a 730 timing attack with the concussive shell also added on. But mind you, that also gives more time for Zest to add on these additional gateways, to add on the forge, to add on the charge. And he's still harassing with these stalkers just to be as annoying as possible, looking for marine kills. Ooh, does a little bit of misfire there on the destructible terrain. But overall, is just in a great position in this game. And RYUNG, he's going to have to make some magic happen with, this bio. But it doesn't even look like he's going to want to do that because that's the 4th and a 5th barracks that are being added on behind the 3rd command center.
It's lots and lots of production on the way here for RYUNG, who needs to try and stabilize this out. He is even on army supply, but a little bit behind in the income advantage. It is still rather close here, still mining pretty tight against each other here. But the damage is going to be the important piece of information, whether or not the Terran player can find a way to get across the map, because he hasn't really done much on the opposite side of the map outside of his initial scout. So the reality is that Zest is going to try and keep this pressure on. He does have a little run by coming in, so Zealot's going to be on the way to get some additional damage, and RYUNG is going to be forced into a decision whether or not he wants to protect his 3rd base, which is just getting situated, or if he wants to try and find damage across the map.
Yeah, absolutely. As we have a charge lot run by already set up, an additional pylon also across the map for Zest. We'll be able to get vision, but also can use that for warpins. And look at this. Zest just says, listen, I'm going to style on him. 3 robotics facilities, a robotics bay as well. And that's pretty much what the plan is here. You're going to stick on ground for a while. You're going to warp in, of course, your zealots, your stalkers. But you don't really have a form of splash damage in this army. So instead of just getting Templar Archives? Well, no, Storm can be EMP'd. That would work for Zest. So instead, cool interaction there with Widowmine. Instead, it's just gonna get 3 robotics facilities at a time. That way, you can just produce 3 Colossus and surprise your opponent. Rushi, it's a foolproof plan.
I can't think of anything that could potentially go wrong. Not a single thing! Except for maybe RYUNG just kind of massing up all of his units, pulling the boys, and making it happen. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we do have ghosts finally on the way. Snipes are going to be a really important piece of this Terran fighting army. And it's starting to feel like RYUNG is trying to close the gap here. Is able to bully these units of Zest backwards just a little bit further. Okay, finally we can get that pesky Stargate out of the equation. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. We were so worried that might come back to haunt us here. But RYUNG able to at least stabilize here. Wow, look at all these mines. Plenty of support here by these mines. And Zest does still have to do something with them. He does have to blink back and forth. So it is a little bit of a mental cost one way or the other. So not insignificant. But both players trying to find little advantages here and there, and so far playing very patiently.
Yeah, it's 20 supply of Widow Mines, but RYUNG, I think he did the smart choice here of opting not to really ever pull the trigger on that timing attack that he could have gone for. Instead, just got up into a really healthy barracks count, continued producing bio, and then is going to be adding on his 4th command center in a good time alongside what is going to be the 5th of Zest. Of course, the Protoss here, with complete agency on the map, can really do whatever they want. Zest is getting into his +2/+2. Has the 3 Stalkers in production, or the 3 Colossus done. Is going to go up to 5, which is quite a scary number alongside the Shadow Stride for the Dark Templars. I mean, Zest is really just getting everything that he wants in order to deal with this Terran army. He's going to have charge lots and DTs for run buys if this goes late, but even if it does, do that, because right now he's also looking for this extremely powerful attack here. 180 supply to 190. RYUNG does have a lot to work with. It's, a lot of Marauders, 16 of them on the map. There's only 5 Vikings here for these Colossus. Mind you, 8 Widowmines right now. It's a nice drag there. Is actually going to be able to snipe a Ghost with the Widowmine friendly fires. The Colossus are just trying to run through this army, but if you're fighting up a choke here, and I think Zest might have pulled the trigger a little bit too early because RYUNG is 30 supply up suddenly.
Yeah, it was a big jump there at the end, and a little bit of a drop for Zest as he did lose some of those supply-heavy units, but the Colossi count just dropping almost immediately. Vikings deleting them from the map here. 3 immediately go down, and now suddenly the AoE attack of this army is very, very limited, and I think RYUNG's going to use the opportunity to try and step forward here. Lots and lots of bio just chewing away from the top rung. There's no way for those Zealots to get to the Marines and the Marauders at the top of that ramp. So now suddenly RYUNG able to take a rather strong engagement here. These Stalkers have to be careful not to overstay their welcome. 1 additional Colossus does get picked off, all before any opportunity here for Zest to utilize his Shadow Stride, which is just now completing. In fact, I don't even know if we have a single DT on the map right now. We don't, so it's an upgrade that is being underutilized right now by the Protoss player, but I don't think he can even afford to think about it here, as he is going to wind up for another engagement. Now we finally do have some DTs in the mix as well. A good scan forward here just to see exactly what RYUNG is up against, and it is a moment where RYUNG can get a good look at the cloaked units here of his opponent, but he has to find a way to deal with this and just kind of hold things back, because the Warp Prism is going to make it a bit more complicated.
Yeah, and I was about to say, I really wish that Zest was adding on Disruptors right now. Obviously, the Colossus, I mean, RYUNG didn't even have a massive Viking count, but he had enough that with some great control, he stemmed the bio in, made sure to get the concave set up, and then just focused on focus firing the Vikings, as DT's going to try and find a backstab here. Shadow Stride into the main mineral line. Another skin is going to go down, and that ability not available for a while. Those DTs are going to fall. Zest suddenly 148 supply to 173, and we're seeing the Zest bank. Finally, we're going to get a warp in here. 8 Stalkers and 6 Zealots. But again, these Disruptors, I think this is going to be the right call here for Zest. You have now a source of AoE that's a lot more dependent on the Protoss control. It's no longer saying, all right, Terran, how do you respond to this? It's more so, all right, how do you respond, and also can I read your movements? As 3 Disruptors already out, you're going to be going up to 6, and I mean, once you hit 5 to 6 Disruptors, you're at the point where you can constantly cycle through Disruptor shots without ever having all of them on cooldown.
Whew. All right. Oh my gosh, that's so many, so many Zealots go streaming across the map here. There are a large number of units here converging. The Disruptors are going to be able to start working their way up here. They do need to get just a bit further forward, but that's going to allow the Zealots on the right-hand side to try and engage this army, but a really nice choke holds a good majority of those ground units back here for Zest. Not going to find the damage that they need, and it feels like Zest is investing so many resources into these engagements that aren't finding any tangible damage in return.
I mean, this is giving me massive flashbacks to Parting versus TY. If everyone remembers that game where Parting was throwing wave after wave of, Charge Law, Dark Templar, Colossus at TY, and never being able to break the Terran, and that's exactly what's happening here. RYUNG is just playing rock solid defense, getting him all the units that he needs, and I mean, he's even on upgrades. RYUNG was behind in the worker count, yes, but he's been able to recover perfectly, but now the Disruptors are so close, and that's a massive shot. Gets a lot of ghosts as well. 3 of them end up falling. I mean, the supplies are even. The banks are even. It's 4 bases versus 5. RYUNG is mining just fine. Some great EMPs onto these Zealots. Oh, does not manage to cancel that command center, which does hurt just a little bit. Has to be careful as there's the blink in. RYUNG does have good position, though, at the backside of this planetary fortress. Oh, the Disruptor is going to be able to snipe it. And finally, Zest finds a decent trade here in this game, wins on 2 fronts, is going to be able to knock down 48 SCVs in total now. And that's all it takes is Zest just finding, one good fight, and suddenly he is in such a better position.
Yeah, it was just a relentless push after push after push, staying aggressive, not allowing RYUNG to maneuver to the other side of the map, and that just increased his opportunity to build additional bases, to get his 5th situated down, to get it saturated even. And this is starting to look a little bit more confident here for the Protoss player. A couple of those disruptor shots, gonna find some money shots here. A 3rd one gonna fly on in, grabs one of the ghosts, but these buildings are just going to start pulling apart here as the ground army is being decimated. And overall, RYUNG just plummets in supply, and he just is not able to hang on. And game number 1 goes to Zest of Dragon Phoenix Gaming, redeeming himself a little bit from the first series.
And you can already see there, I think, the cheese paying off. Obviously, that was a proxy Stargate before Nexus. That's a very risky opening. Whereas if it's scouted any sooner, you potentially have RYUNG just bringing a Marine down and being able to work on that pylon. Honestly, sometimes what I would like to see from Terrans is you just bring an SCV there. The Stargate finishes. Maybe you have a few SCVs and you just knock down the pylon. But there's a lot of different responses to it. RYUNG tried to just sit back and defend as well as possible. And he did defend the first initial Oracle fairly well. Only lost 3 probes or so. The issue came when, of course, you had the 3 Oracles then making their way into the main, and the Widowmine drag opened up that damage possibility for Zest. And then really the rest of the game was based on how much of an advantage he was able to get off of that damage.
Now this is interesting here for game number 2. And he goes for the wall out at the front of the natural. This is a much more unique opening. The Zealot's going to get caught out in the center of the map, and that SCV actually providing very crucial high ground information. So that's going to allow this Reaper to really work down the Zealot. Zealot should be cleaned up. Oh, well, that was a dance. I was expecting that Zealot to not survive that engagement, but look at that. Managing to get away here. I think RYUNG knowing that the Adept could be lurking at any particular moment. It is going to be a Stargate once again for Zest, but this is going to be a much different opportunity for him, making that back at home. But I'm still perplexed by the opening wall here. That screams to me that something a little bit more aggressive is going to be coming.
As we have this Reaper desperately trying to get on out. Ooh, RYUNG not quite able to land the grenade trick. There is the timing where with the KD8 charge, you can time it out so that it actually explodes right as the Adept finishes the shade and doesn't even have a chance to start its attack animation. But it is extremely hard to time that out, especially when you're worrying about your build order back at home. Getting a starport, getting your Widowmines in production, and Marines as well, saturating your bases. So RYUNG does eventually sacrifice that Reaper, but hey, causes Zest to chase it. And you got a little ring around the rosy. It means that Adept is not across the map, and so you've gotten up a bunker in that time. And now here comes the Oracle. There should be Widowmines here already set up. I don't know. Doesn't appear to be one behind the refinery, which is where you usually expect with Zest. Look at that. Immediately sees the line. He's going to be able to pull back his Oracle. Just snag the single SCV and is going to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, it's so careful looking there, and I love how the SCVs do a really nice job of kind of covering it as well. So Zest's going to come in with the 2nd Oracle, possibly being able to use that Widowmine to RYUNG's disadvantage once again, but it doesn't appear to be the case. I'm still just perplexed. I'm perplexed by this front wall here, Titan. We're getting down to a 3rd base at, a little bit early, but not unruly early. This is starting to boil up to be just kind of a normal-ish looking game here for both players. I'm a bit perplexed.
Rushi, I'm pretty sure Zest has broken you with the fact that this is a wall that can't be completed with a Zealot. or even a Stalker. There's actually enough room that Hellions can make their way through. I mean, I don't know. A lot of Protosses don't wall off the front because, of course, if you do that, you're very susceptible to tank pushes. If you end up actually getting cheesed, we've seen in the past, this wall actually ends up making you lose the game. I mean, I'm thinking of the Trap versus Maru series where Maru reverse swept Trap, won that game 7-piece. Trap went for the low ground wall against a proxy 2-racks. So it is definitely strange. You don't usually see it. As there we go, nice revelation. He's going to be able to pick up the Widow Mine, and the Phoenix already finding some value, grabbing a work kill, grabbing that Widow Mine, and Zest is going to be able to continue to apply pressure now going into Phoenix. That Widow Mine, though, is going to be able to find quite a bit of value. A lot of health off of these units, and all the shields gone. So the Protoss will eventually have to evacuate with the air units, and behind this, RYUNG is just working on, I mean, everything as standard. 3 racks, starport, and the factory. Another snipe on that barracks building is very, very annoying because, mind you, that second barracks is going to be the one that is researching your combat shields, and that's a pretty important upgrade for this push. It gives your Marines some more HP. It gives it the tankiness or the sustainability that you really need to be able to push into the Protoss' third. And so that being delayed so much, I mean, I don't know if RYUNG is going to be able to even attempt once again to go for like a past 7-minute timing attack. He might just opt for the third command center.
Well, and he's going to have to be very, very cautious about how he puts this forward, because Zest has already seen that there's no third base on the way behind any of this. So this is not all in, but this is very dedicated pressure that's going to be coming here for RYUNG. So the fact that combat shields is as delayed as it is, that's important intel for Zest. That means that RYUNG's not going to be able to push off at the right time. That means Zest's going to have that many more warp-ins, and sometimes builds like this that hit at between the 6 and the 8 minute mark, they're designed to have the slimmest of a margin. We're talking about like, oh, I have 2 extra units over you, and that's just enough to win as long as I micro appropriately. So the fact that Zest is buying himself even like 25 to 30 seconds worth of time, that's an immense amount of damage that he's able to do to RYUNG.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing it's 7:30. Units aren't across the map. RYUNG is just trying to keep these units out of his main base, and behind this, well, what has Zest been able to do? It's a 4th Nexus on the way. It's 9 gateways. It's a proxy gateway as well for even faster warp-ins, and Zest is just going to say, well, I'm just going to attack you. I think I have enough. You've been delayed so much with this that I'm on a full 3-base economy, and the boys are going to be pulled, so this actually might end up being an anti-timing here for Zest. His anti-armor missile is good, gets a lot of those Zealots very, very low. Zest might have been better to sit back home and defend right now, as RYUNG is going to be able to chase this down. More weapons coming through, but you have the SCVs here, so you can't really fight this army straight up as the Protoss.
Oh, look at these. There's 2 different warp gate proxies here right now. It's possible that Zest, if he's got enough to defend this push coming across the map, he might be able to just start warping in units that can create some additional chaos for RYUNG to deal with. But right now, it seems as if RYUNG is just going to take the opportunity to push up the map. Here's what I was talking about. A nice little revelation on the main army. He knows exactly where all those units are going to be, and all the boys got pulled alongside this as well. So RYUNG is about as all in as he could be right now. All of the Zealots are actually going to be running back home, but what does Zest have to shut this down? 1 tank is going to be strong, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to stop all of the stuff that Zest has got coming.
Look at this surround coming in from Zest. The Marines are going to have to stand back. Most of the SCVs are gone, but the Zealots are starting to thin out. But even then, I mean, the army supplies are now set even still. It's just the worker count that has dropped RYUNG. He's all in, and he was delayed so much chasing down Zest's army outside of his natural that Zest had so much time to build up an even stronger army to get more Archons. And this just feels like Zest is going to be able to defend this no problem. The Archons, I mean, one of them is going to go down. You still have shields on the rest. The shield battery will heal them on up. And all the medevacs are gone because the Phoenix are now going to get some liftoffs onto individual Marines. Zest is going to get the 2-0. He's going to find himself into Code S.
Wow, not nearly as fast as his opponent did, but still fast enough to make it work. And he advances, the final player out of day 1, making it on to Code S Season 2.